do you think it says about the city of Boston that a year after President Trump was elected, that the city then elected 6 women of color to the Boston City Council?
Boston hasn't skipped a beat. We have always been a city that has welcomed everyone from all backgrounds, every nationality, every religious affiliation, age, income, etc. And I think our policies that the council of this last term and the council of this new term have put into place and are working on continue to reflect that commitment.
Mm-hmm. I'd add that we still have work to do. I think that this is an incredible thing to celebrate. It's something that we should spend some time talking about and reflecting on how and why, but also recognize that we've got so much more work to do as a city, as a state, and certainly as a nation.
What was it like being sworn in and then looking around you and seeing your fellow councilors around you?
It's an incredible feeling. Just sitting here with my 5 colleagues feels great. I do think being a woman changes the game in a lot of ways. We don't have to look at studies that tell us that women get things done. We don't waste time. We tend to work more collaboratively than some of our colleagues.
And Councilor Campbell, you're the first African-American woman city council president. I mean, what was that like for you?
Tears came to my eyes because I can only imagine what it means for little girls growing up in the city of Boston or in Massachusetts who are paying attention to the council and the work we do and see themselves now as someone who can serve in this capacity, serve as an elected at any level of government.
That gavel was handed over to her by the first woman of color council president and the first Asian American female elected to the Boston City Council in Michelle Wu. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us are really the beneficiaries of incremental progress that's been happening relative to gender and racial parity in government and a more inclusive and representative government. I remember running for the Boston City Council for the first time in 2009. I was the only woman running in that field of 15 candidates. And we were walking in the Caribbean Carnival Parade, torrential downpour. You all know it rains every carnival. And I was leading the carnival parade, and little girls along the route were saying, "Who is Ayanna?" And I would raise my hand in this downpour and say, "I am." And I kid you not, multiple girls said, "That is my name too, can I walk with you?" And I turned to my team and I said, if we lose in the traditional sense, we've already won. And that's the power of representation. People feeling a greater promise and stakeholder in government because they see themselves reflected.
Did you have folks that doubted your ability to represent that part of the city?
I don't think that there was ever a doubt in the capability, right? It was whether that I could win the race. And I think that that's usually something that we struggle with in general when you're trying to run. If you're a candidate, if you're not well known, if you may not be born and raised in Boston, there might be certain indications or questions about whether you can really represent any Boston town or the whole town.
There's a lot of comparisons that people can make. I would often get, as I was canvassing and talking to residents, are you like Chuck or you like Tito? And so really having to put out, I'm Kim, I'm like Kim, and the way that I will lead, the way that I will listen, the way that I will respond, the way that I will advocate will be what I bring as someone to the City Council and not necessarily what someone else before me has done.
Councilor Asabi George, you mentioned that there's work to be done. What do you see as some of the big issues that need to be tackled right now?
I'd say as a city, we need to make sure that we focus our energy on education. I know Kim and I have talked a lot about education. I'm a former teacher in the city, and we just have so much work ahead of us to do. But we also have an incredible housing crisis. We need to make sure that we're all talking about it, which we are, but that the work is also happening.
We've got a huge wealth gap that we know between Black Bostonians and white Bostonians. There's a lack of representation in terms of leadership in the Latino community. And so we have a lot more work to do. So it's great that the 6 of us sit here, but there's just a lot more to do. Exactly.
Because we've reached this great milestone of 6 doesn't mean that we shouldn't be cultivating the future leaders in the city of Boston, statewide, nationwide, that work has to also continue.
Your districts all elected you all, but there are still sentiments of racism. There are people who are dealing with this every single day. What do you wish that your example would change?
You belong everywhere, right? And you need to go everywhere, and you need to connect with everyone. you need to be okay with extending your hand and waiting patiently for the other person to respond. And that can be painful.
What I would like is for us to actualize the aspiration of this city. In many ways, we are better than we used to be. We are evidence of that. We are the manifestation of that, but we're still not who we can be.